a secret how much free quality information Wager Talk, Sports MoMA, and the Gold Sheet produce. And next up, we're giving out the Wager Talk College Basketball Guide. This might be the most informative collection of sports betting info we've ever produced. We're covering returning starters, offensive, defensive, and tempo rankings, recruiting rankings, head coaching info and background, and so much more. Even if you are the casual basketball fan, head over to the Ralph Michaels page and download this amazing guide for free.
All right, and away we go here, fellas. Welcome in December the 29th. The countdown has begun. Bye-bye, 2020. Welcoming in 2021. But before we get there, we got some college hoops to discuss. So welcome in on behalf of WagerTalk.com. I'm Joe Raineri. It is the college basketball tip-off show, and we are loaded today on the card, and we're going to squeeze every bit of action we can in for you, every bit of knowledge we have here in the next 28 and a half minutes or so. Let us bring in the panel. And these guys, telling you, best looking crew on all of YouTube right now. You will not find a better looking crew here than Ralph Michaels, Dave Koken, and Tony Mejia joining us today here. And fellas, a lot to get to. We got 4 games that we're going to talk about here today. ACC, Florida State, and Clemson. First one to 20 wins. Mississippi taking on Ole Miss, taking on Alabama. We'll cover that. We'll talk a little Houston, Tulsa, another defensive battle, and a Wofford Mercer. We'll dive into that. Plus, we got a play of the day, courtesy of our friends at Gold Sheet. And before we get to these plays, we'll take a look back. But I do want to remind all you guys, if you're just joining us for the first time, Twitter is a great place for you guys to be able to get acclimated with these gentlemen. If you have not, if you don't know them, if you have not known them, Tony Mejia, Dave Koken, Ralph Michaels. Here's their Twitter handles, guys. Those are their Twitter pages. Make sure you check them out. Good information, good time, fun stuff. Always a good follow across the board with all 3 of these guys. And as far as what's up at Wager Talk today, it is $2 Tuesday. So there is an opportunity for you guys. I believe Tony Finn, who was on the show yesterday, he's got his plays up there for $2. But Ralph, I'll start with you. What do you got? I see something going on up over there with the hot play at Wager Talk. What do you got going on there?
I have 3 college basketball plays today. I loaded them in one package, so you're getting 3 for the price of 1. All 3 plays available now. You do need to get them before 4 o'clock Eastern. I do have 1 afternoon tip, so make sure you don't miss out on that afternoon game.
All right, perfect. And Dave, I know you've got a couple of bowl games up here for over the next week or so. None of them today, but you've got the opportunity to hop on some of those bowl plays as well.
Yeah, I don't have any plays today. I did not like either bowl game, so at least not enough to bet. But I do have my 5% bowl play pending, a free play, although the line has shifted on that game. I'd still think it's worth betting. And added the Liberty Bowl this morning. Probably will add another bowl game for later in the week before the day is over. So the bowls are falling into place. Unfortunately, as far as the basketball is concerned, I had 2 games circled for today, and they both got canceled. So I'm not just going to force something that I don't really care for. So blank slate today, but plenty of action coming up.
Nothing says Dave Koken like a couple of canceled games that he loved and circled. That's for sure. Tony Mejia, go ahead, Ralph.
Come on, Joe. You got to tell your Koken joke.
No, I mean, honestly, if you know somebody getting married and you don't think they should be getting married, have Koken place a wager on it, and that wedding is off. I can assure you that's what's going to happen here, man. Happened all the time with Dave. Tony Mejia, my friend, welcome in here, bud. You are as busy as a one-legged man in an ass-kicking contest, my friend. You're all over the place. You're right. You got all sorts of good stuff going on at Gold Sheet, here at Wager Talk, NBA, college basketball, bowl season. What's going on at Wager Talk right now?
Well, I've got a bowl pick, a 5% bowl pick on the Cotton Bowl for Wednesday. And then I'll probably touch something tonight with probably Texas and Colorado. We'll have to see. But just with these bowls, you have to kind of wait till the last second to make sure you know who's playing. Information on Florida and Oklahoma came out a little earlier, so I was able to get that squared away. But yeah, just working and plugging away. Basketball in full swing now.
Totally is, guys. So make sure you check out WagerTalk.com here today at the point. Ralph told you, get in before 4 o'clock there. Get the 5% bowl play for Dave Koken. And, of course, make sure you are following Tony Mejia. Get to the page there as the plays are a-coming here today. And before we take a look at what we got on these games today, these 4 that we're going to talk about, let's rewind a little bit, talk about what we saw last night here. We talked about a couple of games on the show. We did have some top performers, so let's take a look at those. And Ralph, I'll start with you here. Any surprises last night? Anybody on this list? Illinois State, Loyola. We talked about that game here, and I'm guessing Loyola decided to show up and give some effort. We had some questions about it, but I guess we got the answer.
Yeah, back-to-back for them. You know, Evansville, a couple wins now. They had a 20-game losing streak. They have a couple wins, so nice to see that program at least, you know, beating the bottom feeders. We'll see what happens when they play some tougher competition.
That's a man's line down there, Nick Stampley. Look at that, man. 20 minutes, 16 points, 17 rebounds, 2 assists. Great job there. Some of the covers from yesterday that off the top 3, as a matter of fact. Here, we'll start at the top. All right, Dave. You know, you kind of alluded to it. We talked about it yesterday. This is not the Michigan State of old, and it showed again last night against that Minnesota team that covered by 28.
They were awful, absolutely awful on both ends of the court. I don't know what's going on there, but this is look. They could be completely different by March, but right now Michigan State they don't look good, and Minnesota just killed them last night.
I don't know. That wasn't. It was a cover. It wasn't certainly an upset, even though they were a dog there at home, which was strange. But Tony, Maryland, Wisconsin, that was a big game last night too. It crept under 10 there as a closing line, but Maryland, 15.5 was what the cover was. Great job by them. Great game. Great win in the Big Ten.
Yeah, I mean, I think you see a lot of parity in the Big Ten thus far to start the season. You know, Wisconsin, I think, is probably the class of it based on performance, but a lot of good teams, a lot of good basketball, really competitive thus far to start the conference play.
Absolutely. Do you have New Jersey Tech, Ralph? Did you throw New Jersey Tech on the card? Because you like
that was it. You know, double overtime. So you know, you think when you get that better team twice in overtime, hats off to them. And you know, and the gold sheet, Cal State Northridge with the upset. That was the gold sheet play of the day yesterday. So congrats.
Yep, good stuff there. Some of the biggest overs, unders on the card from yesterday, too. Take a look at those. And congrats. Listen, we talked Arizona, Colorado on the show yesterday as well there, Dave. Arizona does wins rather convincingly there. The over by 24 points. Impressive from Arizona last night.
Yeah, they were good. In Colorado, I think I mentioned yesterday, I kind of think they might be a little bit of a fraud. And what I saw last night kind of bears that out. By the way, McKinley Wright, I mean, it's a 15-point game with a minute to go. And McKinley Wright still in the game for whatever reason for Colorado, and he got hurt. I don't know that it was anything serious, but don't know what his status will be for the next game. What do you got your best player out there down 15 with a minute to go? These coaches are idiots.
Yep. Couldn't have said that any better myself there. Absolutely. All right, guys, again, quick reminder, make sure you head over to WagerTalk.com, check it out, get Ralph's plays, get Dave's 5% bowl game there, and make sure you're getting ready because Tony Mejia is about to unload a full card there at WagerTalk.com for you. Gentlemen, let's start in the ACC here tonight on what is going to be a fun game. This is going to be some defense. If you like defense, we're looking at Florida State and Clemson here. Clemson at home, laying 2.5. And I'll start with you here, Ralph. Total is 132. I kind of feel like this is going to be one of those, first one to 60, 65 kind of situation. How do you see this unfolding here tonight in Clemson?
Well, Clemson's Ken Palm's number 2 defense. They shut down their opponents. Have they played any offenses of this caliber? They held Virginia Tech to 66 in a game they lost. You're talking 2 of the deepest teams, 2 of the strongest teams. Clemson has 11 players right now averaging over 10 minutes, giving them a lot of depth. And when you look at what Florida State brings to the table, Leonard Hamilton talked about how this is, when he watches this team practice, it's one of the best teams he's had. But he has said multiple times in the past week, I've read a couple stories out of Tallahassee. He says, guys, don't be afraid. We're still in development stage. So, I take that and I look that, I actually lean Clemson today because when a coach is saying that multiple times, yeah, he's trying to make sure his alum doesn't overreact if they lose a couple games early. They, of course, lost to UCF. At home, they bounced back and beat Gardner-Webb by 13, but this is their first road game of the season. And, when a coach is prefacing it by saying that, yeah, well, a lot of guys are playing and we're young and we're on the road, that does have me looking towards backing the home team Clemson Tigers today.
Tony Mejia, no surprise there. Clemson 5-2 to the under so far this year. It did open up at 132. I'm seeing 130s on the board here. The first half could be a whole lot of feeling each other out. Do you expect some points in this, or do you think this is going to be a grind 'em final possession kind of game?
Yeah, I mean, your natural inclination when you see these teams matched up is to bet the under. The last game of last season was a 70-69 Clemson win. Previous season, they got to 145 and 141 together, and the 72-53 FSU win in a blowout last season as well. So you're right in the 125 to 140 range. So this is a little low on the 130s, but again, I do expect a grinder. To me, FSU will go as well as Scotty Barnes goes on the road in ACC play because, obviously he's a young kid, but he's so talented. And when he gets it going at both ends of the floor, FSU's level definitely goes up a few notches.
Not a really terribly fast pace here tonight, Dave. And it's not like Clemson's a great shooting team, but they certainly can make up for it with opportunities on the defensive end.
Yeah, I still don't like the matchup, particularly for Clemson, though, because Florida State's so tall. And I think that might be the difference in this game. The key for me is Florida State limiting its turnovers. Clemson does force turnovers, and if Florida State's sloppy with the basketball, they'll probably get beat. But I just think Florida State's physically the better basketball team, the more athletic team, we'll put it that way, with that big size advantage. And I think ultimately that's going to be the difference in the game. I expect it to be close. Little John, however, not the same, with no sellout as opposed to what we've got now. I think Florida State will slip out with the win in this game.
Going to be a fun matchup. Actually, going to be an ugly matchup. Who we can? It's going to be ugly there throughout. It'll be fun to see how it ends up there in the final 2 minutes. Let's talk about a battle that's going to be 180-degree different when we look at Alabama taking on Ole Miss. We talked about Clemson slowing it down, no rush. Alabama's going to be in a rush. Now, whether they make any baskets, and Tony, I'll start with you, whether or not they can actually get in and get hot from the outside is to be determined. But we certainly know they're going to spend a lot of time running up and down the court here tonight in this matchup.
Yeah, I mean, that's what the Tide wants to do. They got John Petty and James Rojas back after missing their last game. So, I think Ole Miss should be the favorite despite this being on the road. They come off a 92-43 blowout of Tennessee Martin. And I just trust a team that prefers to defend first and foremost over a team that wants to run at all costs. And that's what Kermit Davis's team is going to want to do. So give me the Rebels over the Crimson Tide in this one. Kadeem Sy is supposed to play, too, for Ole Miss. That's a big addition.
Yep. And, Dave, you mentioned size in the last game here. Speed also and pace of play going to come into this. Rojas back. How do you like Alabama in this spot?
Well, let me talk on Mississippi first. I mean, their defensive numbers are fantastic so far, but they haven't really played anybody. Their best opponent was Dayton, and they lost that game by 3. So I think the book's still open on them. But Alabama just has not put it together. And in watching their games, and granted, they've played some good opponents, but in watching their games, we knew they were going to shoot a lot of threes, but they're not getting good threes. They're just basically coming down and launching. I don't know why Nate Oates hasn't been able to get this team to be a little more disciplined and look for better shots. And I know the due factor's there for Alabama. These shots are due to start falling because they've got good outside shooters, but They're just not running any offense. And unless that stops, I think they're going to continue to have some problems. So I would agree with Tony. I think Mississippi has a real good chance to go on the road and win this. I mean, if we see a more fluid offense from Alabama where they're actually getting good looks with their threes, then that could change in a hurry. I think there's a lot of talent on this team, but we just haven't seen it to this point, and I'm not a believer in the do theory. So I'll go with the team that right now is just playing the smarter basketball, and that's Ole Miss.
142, Ralph, was a opening number, 142.5. It's being bet up. I'm seeing 148, 148.5 out on the board here. Alabama, it's all about whether or not they're making threes, isn't it?
Yeah, and they haven't been making them. You know, Shackelford was in a huge slump. He finally broke out of it in the last game. That was against, East Tennessee State, though. Dave talked about how Ole Miss hasn't played anybody. Well, their defense has held 5 of their 6 foes to 41% or less. The problem is the only top 100 team they played, Dayton, they were on the road like they are today, and they allowed 51% shooting against Dayton. But you have to remember, Ole Miss is 0-6 over-under this year, meaning 6-0 to the under. So, you do have that pace. You look at Alabama, and you look at their tempo splits. And people look at the adjusted tempo, which is 28. But Alabama shoots the third quickest. They come down, they pass the ball out to an open three, and they shoot. But on the opposite end, teams are number 300 against Alabama. When Alabama starts playing defense, they really do slow the tempo of the other team and have to shoot multiple passes. They have to pass multiple times to get open shots. So they are playing much better D than they have in the past. I have 2 leans here. I lean under because, again, I think the tempo with Ole Miss playing defense, slowing it down, with Ole Miss slowing it down against Alabama's defense, we're going to be at a slow pace. And I also would fade Alabama in the first half. I don't know what it is with them, but the Western Kentucky game I watched, the Furman game I watched, they just play horrible in the first half, make good halftime adjustments, and start playing much better in the second half. So we'll see if that continues, but certainly I lean under, and I lean Ole Miss in the first half.
Reminder as well, guys, here we'll get to this Houston-Tulsa game in a second, but WagerTalk.com right now, opportunities. Jump on Ralph's 3-pack college basketball prior to 4 o'clock Eastern. Grab that 5% college bowl game from Dave Koken right now and get ready. A card tonight in not only college basketball, the NBA bowl games coming quickly here for Tony Mejia. So opportunities to profit here tonight right now at WagerTalk.com. Dave, you and I a couple of weeks ago watched Tulsa and Memphis play, and we were nearly throwing up here the next day when we did. It was horrible. Now we see Houston taking on Tulsa here tonight. Tulsa scored less than 60 points and won that game. I like Houston. Watched them over UCF there. Sorry about that, Tony Mejia. Watched them play a pretty good game over the weekend. How do you see this unfolding here with this Houston Cougars team right now, who's undefeated? They're a pretty solid group.
Yeah, they're a top 10 team. I mean, this is a team that has a chance to be playing in the final weekend of the season. They're that good. And Kelvin Sampson is a tremendous coach. Nevertheless, this is this is a spot where they could have some problems. Tulsa's playing pretty good ball. They've been better in their last few games. Certainly, they had some stumbles early, and Houston's had a little trouble on this court. I believe, looking back at last year, I think they lost on this court last year. They did. Only a 2-point game. But Houston's a team I have no intention of going against Houston anytime soon. They're really good at both ends of the court. I just don't see anybody even sniffing them in the American Athletic Conference. I think they're going to absolutely run away with that league and might not lose a game all season in conference. So for me, it's going to be Houston or nothing. I think the number's enough to keep me out of this. Well, it is enough to keep me out of it. I didn't bet it. But Houston is legit. This is a really, really powerhouse basketball team.
I agree. Ralph, Houston is yet to allow a team to reach 70 points here. Both teams, both defenses, as a matter of fact, both teams are allowing less than 60 points per game. Opponents are only shooting about 36% from the field here. How do you see these two matching up? Home dog looks tempting, but I don't know. You want to get in front of Houston?
Home dog doesn't look tempting to me, Joe. I'm going to be revisiting this Houston team in a few more minutes when I get my best bet. And, I'll just go ahead and break it down for you now. And this is my best bet for the day. You look at who Tulsa has faced. The top offense Tulsa has faced is number 68, which is TCU. And they lost that game 60-75. What's Houston's offense? Well, let me say this. We all respect the Ken Palm ratings. There are 3 teams that have both an offense and a defensive rating from Ken Palm in the top 15. They are Houston, they are Baylor, and they are Wisconsin. So you're putting Houston up in that kind of situation. And then I watched part of that UCF game, and Houston did struggle early on. But let's not forget, they just got Khalid Mills, their point guard, back. He missed 3 games. That was his first game back. They also just got back, Sasser, they just got back, who missed 3 starts. And they just got back Khalid Mills, who missed 4 games. And that was his first game back as well. So you saw them struggle getting back in a rotation against you. Those players are now back. They have the rotation they want that's going to take them forward. Having lost here at Tulsa last year, I think keeps their memory and keeps their focus in this game. I do have Houston, and again, it is a best bet, and I'll let you know this. It is one of my 3 actual client plays up at Wager Talk for tonight.
Love it. There you go, guys. Bit of information there. Tony Mejia, I'm sure you watched that UCF game here against this Houston squad. Are you a believer in Houston in this spot on the road?
Yeah, I'm such a believer that I had Houston in that game, and they covered despite the slow start. No homerism here. I call them as I see them and have to. Business is business. Obviously, I have a rooting interest in UCF, but when I think they're overmatched, I call it like I see them. Especially with that line being 7 instead of 4 or 5, made it easy to say, oh well, Houston should impose its will here, and there's no funny business going on. Ralph mentioned Mills returning. That's a huge factor for the Cougars. He is the best player in that entire conference and doesn't mind coming off the bench. So what it allows Kelvin Sampson to do is really start a game with his integrity defensively the way he wants to. And then you bring Mills in and off the bench, and he's an immediate playmaker that changes things at both ends. So I love Dejan Giroux. He's a fantastic 2-way guard. Sasser's been shooting the ball well. I would not touch Tulsa in this game, but you do have to know that Houston has a lot of respect for Tulsa. I think Sampson likes Heath an immense amount. They did lose to the Golden Hurricane last season. So my inclination would be to play this game to the under rather than messing around with the points.
Love it. All right, there you go, guys. One final game here we'll break down for you. We'll talk a little bit about the Wofford taking on Mercer here tonight. Total 145. Mercer, a 3-point favorite. And Dave, let me start with you. Mercer, certainly a pretty good shooting team, what they've shown us so far this year. Have you been impressed at all with what you've seen from Wofford? Not necessarily the best shooting year that we've seen from this squad.
No. We talked about Alabama coming down and shooting threes, just firing them up from any place. They're conservative in that department compared to Wofford. I mean, Wofford basically just shoots nothing but threes. I think it's like 63% of their field goal attempts are threes. I just don't like that offense. I understand that the analytics and the math tell you that 3-point shots are worth more than 2. Without going into it heavily, I mean, I get that, but you still got to run offense, and Wofford just isn't doing it. So if their threes aren't falling, what else are they going to do? And the threes haven't really been falling at that great a clip. They also, by the way, can't make a free throw to save their lives. They're shooting like 50% from the foul line, which is absurdly awful. I think Mercer finds a way to get this. I think Wofford's got more talent, but they're not playing to talent level right now. And I'll put that on the coach, to be quite honest with you. This isn't Mike Young coaching this team anymore, and it's showing. I think they were a little bit of a disappointment last year, and maybe have slid a little bit more this year. Got to create some offense. Got to get some flow out there. And until they do that, I think they're a team you can bet against.
Ralph, Wofford beaten by Texas A&M in its last outing. This might be a little bit easier at time, but are you a believer that they got enough to take down a pretty good Mercer squad here?
Well, you look at Mercer. I mean, Mercer's played Georgia Tech and Georgia State. That's about it. They split those two games. So the strength of schedule certainly goes towards Wofford. I look at Wofford, and I actually have Wofford as the favorite here in my power ratings. Yes, they've struggled, and Dave's totally correct about the free throw shooting. But I look at Wofford, and from what I've read about them, they've been waiting for Max Klesmit. The kid's a freshman, and he was banged up. He just played his first game against A&M. He scored 14 points, and Jay McCauley, the head coach, said this may be one of the best guards in the conference, and he may be one of the best guards we've ever had at Wofford moving forward. He's that type of recruit. So, people wonder how we pick these games and why we pick this game. Well, this game's on ESPNU, so you get to learn something about the Southern Conference, get to watch some of these players. I actually do like Wofford in this game. I think they're going to get a boost. I think, having played Richmond, South Florida, Coastal Carolina, and Texas A&M in that 4-game stretch, a lot of teams are going to struggle against those, especially playing them all away from home. So I think that gets them ready in those tough venues to be prepared for this game. So I actually do like the Terriers tonight.
All right. And Tony Mejia, talk to me, my friend. I don't know if you've had an opportunity to check out these two squads here this year, but what side are you leaning on?
I'm leaning towards Mercer. They have the better offense. They were a part of the Atlantic Sun back when UCF was there, and I was a student there. So I remember that program well. Mark Sloniker was the head coach back in the day. Look, they're actually having a South Carolina transfer, Felipe Hasse, I believe is how you pronounce it, even though it's said Hass, and it's the same spelling as Jared Hass, the head coach at Stanford, but the kid's from Chile, and he's fantastic. And Makai Bender is another big 6'10" forward that they have out there that they give the green light to shoot three. So it's a really unique team, from a college standpoint. Wofford, again, their level has gone down. You look at the spread, you would normally imagine Wofford to be a much heavier favorite against a Mercer team that's been middle of the road in the SoCon. So I think it's ripe for the picking. They don't normally get nationally televised games out in Macon, and I think they'll be ready for it. So give me Mercer.
All right, great stuff there. Again, guys, Ralph Michaels, Dave Koken, Tony Mejia, opportunities, guys, over at WagerTalk.com to invest with them. Make it a profitable week here as we get ready to say goodbye to 2020. Welcome in 2021. We also want to thank our good friends, Ralph from the Gold Sheet, who have done an amazing job here, providing some great insight, and another winner last night, our play of the day from the Gold Sheet. What direction are they heading tonight here, Ralph?
Ralph, you muted yourself.
Ralph, you're muted again. Every time I turn around, you're giving me the finger, and now you mute yourself. It's just unreal.
I said, Joe, every time I want to MF you on the air, I got to hit the mute button so that doesn't come out. What I meant to say before I hit that damn button was, my best bet was on Houston. We already talked about that. I'm going to throw this to Tony. I'm having an inkling that this is a game he wrote, and I think it's going to double up with his best bet. So tell us about the Gold Sheet play of the day, Tony.
Well, Ralph, thank you for the setup, but unfortunately, this was a Bruce Marshall play that I do have a take on. So I'm not sure if we're going to contradict each other, but Bruce did the Gold Sheet write-up, and he does a fantastic job. My call is actually the free play at my page on wagertalkwt.buzz/TM, which favors Rutgers. So I like the Scarlet Knights to get it done at home. Obviously you would love to have the students in the building at the rack, but that's not possible. it's still a great advantage for RU at home. Steve Peichel has maintained that edge even in the Big Ten. Back in the day when Rutgers was in different conferences, you still never wanted to go through Piscataway. And even as Rutgers played the doormat for the Big Ten early on, it was still a dangerous spot to have to come into. And now Rutgers is actually really good. So this is going to be a very difficult spot for Purdue. They've suffered most of their losses away from Mackey Arena in West Lafayette. So this is a danger spot for me. Give me Rutgers and lay the points. It's a small number.
And Joe, I will have the play of the day from the Gold Sheet, which is also Rutgers, Tony. That's why I thought you wrote it, because I saw it was a duplicate with the Rutgers and you having Rutgers. The Gold Sheet play of the day is Rutgers. Follow me on Twitter at CalSportsLV. After each show, I do tweet out the entire write-up, see the new Gold Sheet format, and read the Bruce Marshall write-up, not the Tony Mejia write-up on the game tonight.
Love it. All right, let's talk a little bit here, Dave, about I know you, of course, you had two games that you liked today. Unfortunately, were canceled. Did you see anything else on the card that you liked?
Not enough to bet, but and I won't be redundant and go through the analysis again, but I do think Ole Miss has a pretty good chance tonight against Alabama. So Ole Miss +2 will be my best bet for the show. But again, a little caveat there. I did not bet a basketball game tonight. I liked Ryder quite a bit against Coppin State. Thought it was a really good spot for Ryder to pick up a needed win, but they're not going to play the game. Nothing much I can do there. And so I'm blank today. But for the purposes of the show, I'll go Ole Miss +2.
All right, Ole Miss +2. And Tony, again, your best bet here tonight. You're looking at that Rutgers-Purdue game, correct?
Right, and it was 2.5 last night. Now I see it's 3 across the board. Still like Rutgers, and a little bit of a lean. Check out what's going on in Blacksburg, because Chris Likes and Cam Auguste are game time decisions. So around 5:30, if Larinaga has decided whether they're going to play or not, you might want to pick Virginia Tech in that game if those guys do not play, since they have no hope if those guys do not play.
Yeah, I did that.
Just a quick note. We don't know if they've been practicing.
Right.
Miami's a real mess right now. I can't disagree with that at all.
I'm just going to say, Ralph knows this. The last time that we had information about Miami and none of the guys were going to be playing, Purdue, they ended up coming back like 50 points against Purdue. So, yes, thank you very much there, Purdue, for ruining our day that day against Miami.
No, Joe, remember, that was just with Likes out. Then game, we both had Pittsburgh, and yes. Pittsburgh beat them down to Miami. Yes. Miami was without 3 starters that game, including Likes.
Yep. So it's that's going to be an interesting contest here tonight. As is, guys. I don't know. Call me crazy. Give me the new kid on the block here tonight. How about Dixie State, Ralph? I know you pulled out Chicago State a couple of days. I don't know where do you even have them ranked? I'm not even sure that you do, but I know Gonzaga's playing their 6th game in 9 days, 6-10, something along those lines, and 38 points. They have not been able to, from what I understand, they have not beaten anybody by more than 30 points here. This is a Dixie State. They're new to Division I, but call me crazy, Ralph. I'm going to pull Chicago State here. I'm going to take the 38 points here against that buzzsaw that is Gonzaga.
Yeah, I mean, Dixie State only lost to Southern Utah by 7. And you talk about the Zags. Saturday, they played Virginia. Last night, they played Northern Arizona. And tonight, they play Dixie State. Oh, yeah, by the way, on January 2nd, they play San Francisco. So, yeah, if there's a game where you're going to go 17 deep, it's tonight against Dixie State.
Yeah. Also, they're a very up-tempo team like the Zags, so they should be able to run with them. So I'll take the 38. And I'll also remind you guys, great information available not only on their Twitter pages, but, of course, at WagerTalk.com for these guys. And just to recap, too, we'll get those plays up there. If you're just joining us, we will go around the horn. And Dave, although the games he did like, unfortunately, were canceled, he does have Ole Miss up there that he's leaning towards. Tony Mejia liking Rutgers, even at -3. Ralph gave you Houston 8.5 against Tulsa. I'll take the 38 in Dixie State, and the Gold Sheet also Rutgers laying 3 points. So once again, guys, on behalf of the gang here, Ralph Michaels, Dave Koken, Tony Mejia, we want to thank you very much for stopping by. Hit that little bell in the upper right-hand corner. Make sure you subscribe to our page here on YouTube at Wager Talk. And then come back and join us again tomorrow. We'll break down the next round of college basketball games, looking to make it a profitable end to 2020. Good luck, guys. We'll talk to you again tomorrow.
It's not a secret how much free quality information Wager Talk, SportsMoma, and the Gold Sheet produce. And next up, we're giving out the Wager Talk College Basketball Guide. This might be the most informative collection of sports betting info we've ever produced. We're covering returning starters, offensive, defensive, and tempo rankings, recruiting rankings, head coaching info and background, and so much more. Even if you are the casual basketball fan, head over to the Ralph Michaels page and download this amazing guide for free.